And it's back. The Volkswagen Up GTI has returned after a brief leave of absence due to new Euro emissions regulations and the tweaks that Volkswagen had to make to ensure that it met them. We're pretty glad that this funky little Tetris cube of a hatchback has returned to our roads. Now, do any of you remember micro machines from the 80s, 90s? Tiny little toy cars that were effectively little caricatures of much faster vehicles. Big, exaggerated wheels, but really recognisable details from what they actually were. Funky little toys. I think that was the inspiration behind the Up GTI, because if you look at its nice 17-inch alloy wheels and all of the recognisable bloodline elements of bigger brother GTIs that you can find on this car, yeah, put it in a little compact shape and here you have it. A city car with the attitude of a big boy hot hatchback. Up front you've got these nice big glossy black elements that add a bit of muscle to the front of the car, and then just above it that little GTI signature line that's instantly recognisable. Red brake calipers are nestled into the spokes of those 17-inch alloy wheels, and you could even have door stripes option down the side of the car. Up GTIs can be had in the more stylish 3-door or this more practical 5-door model. Thanks to the car's boxy shape, the interior is more spacious than you might imagine, particularly in the rear quarters in this 5-door model. That clever but minimalist attitude continues into the front, where you've got a nice, clear, easy to read instrumentation cluster, as well as this little digital readout for infotainment. Standard are these heated seats, finished in the traditional GTI tartan. As typical of city cars, there are some harsh materials around the cabin. It's not particularly a luxury product, but it does have a premium sheen to it and a definite air of durability. I think the interior will definitely stand the test of time. Open the glass hatch to reveal 251 litres of space, and whilst that might not sound much in comparison to some rivals, it's actually perfectly adequate. Behind the wheel of the Up GTI, the driver has a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine at their disposal. And whilst it has been tweaked and altered to meet the latest Euro emissions regulations, it's not really any the worse for it. It's the same enthusiastic, thrummy 3-cylinder it always has been. It's got really nice levels of low-down torque to shove you out of a junction at a moment's notice, or when you snatch another gear to keep that momentum going. I mean, 114 brake horsepower isn't exactly a lot, but considering this car weighs 995 kilos, and combined with that torque, it feels a bit brisker than its 8.8 second 0 to 62 time suggests. It really is a cracking little engine, but the Achilles heel of this drivetrain has to be this 6-speed manual transmission, which is just a bit loose and a bit imprecise. You want a nice little short throw snickety-snick type gearbox in a small hatchback like this, and that's what this car's lacking. It's a real shame, and if I'm totally honest, it takes away a bit of the enjoyment when you're driving this car hard. But the good news is there's enough joy to be found elsewhere in the Up GTI to paper over this particular crack. Now, some cars like the Up GTI's bigger brother, the Golf GTI, have become real performance weapons, so focused, so serious, and they really have this hunkered down, secure feeling on the road. Now, the Up GTI actually lacks that. It sort of hops, skips and jumps about the place. There's a lot more movement. And whilst some people might perceive that as a negative whilst just setting a lap time on a racetrack, on an open B road it's really good fun to get on top of this car and feel that communication as the weight transfers through the chassis. There's body roll, but not too much, just enough to inform you about where the weight is shifting, and you can really get a good gauge of where the balance is. And if you're somebody who likes getting on top of the movement of a car, this might just be for you. It really is good fun to feel it skip about on the surface of the tarmac and manage the grip levels that are available. That's where the fun is to be found in this. It's not a fast point-to-point car. The steering might not be absolutely bristling with feedback, but it's nice and precise and has a real predictable motion to it. And that makes chucking this thing around corners an absolute hoot. I mean, because of its lack of mass and relatively short wheelbase, it's really agile. And like I say, you can tailor this thing on the throttle a little bit to reduce the understeer, pitch it in, feel the weight transfer. It's an absolute hoot to drive on its door handles. I really, really do love this thing. You know, and I think that's the magic of the Up GTI, because whilst, it's a city car and you can use it every day, it's also really great fun to take on faster stretches of road. And sure, it's not going to be setting the fastest lap times on track days, and actually I wouldn't want to see an Up GTI anywhere near a racetrack. But on country roads like these, I have more fun in something like this than a supercar. There really is some sort of unquantifiable, almost intangible quality to the Up GTI that just means you can't help but fall in love with it. And yet, sure, this car has its critics and there are things it could definitely do better. But I think, realistically speaking, in 2020, where there's so many restrictions on just how much fun a petrol head can have in a car these days, especially at this price point, I mean, what's not to love? I mean, this car costs very little to run in the real world, is excellent fun on twisting country roads, and I think it looks utterly fantastic. Genuine question, how many cars after a really, really crap day do you get into and it leaves you beaming from ear to ear doing speeds that are still within the speed limit? Very, very few. This car could be a remedy for national depression. It should be on the NHS. It's such a feel-good machine. In fact, I like it so much that I am genuinely thinking about buying one of these little cars. How's that for a ringing endorsement? Costing from £16,540 for one of these 5-door models, the Up GTI has experienced a slight price increase upon its return. But if I could be so cheesy, in terms of smiles per mile, I think that's pretty good value for money. If you're interested in an Up GTI, there's plenty more to be found on YesAuto.com, as well as some really great deals on this fantastic little car. Head to YesAuto.com for the latest car news and reviews, and don't forget to check us out on social media. We're in all the usual places such as Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Simply search for YesAuto.